I'm George McShann. I'm a 1965 graduate of Booker T. Washington High School. And the most senior and oldest graduate alumni that's here today is my uncle, Shifton McShann, graduated in 1950. Well, it's certainly humbling, and I have a great deal of gratitude to share the story of black children educated in the segregated public school system on the 150th anniversary of Elgin, Texas. I thought about this, and we should always honor our past. We live in the present. But we point with pride to the future and hope that the humanity and our democracy will continue to thrive and grow. So let me put it in perspective. We talk about the past. And this is going to be an educational opportunity for all of us. I am an educator. How did this get started? After the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln, through the Emancipation Proclamation, sent an executive order freeing the slaves, and the segregated school system was established. In 1896, in the case of Plessy versus Ferguson, the Supreme Court ruled that separate but equal schools are constitutional. And that was the law of the land until 1954. When the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education that separate but equal schools are unconstitutional. So in 1953, I was in first grade at Booker T. Washington and graduated in 1965. In 1967, children at Booker T. Washington had a choice to enroll in the Elgin School or remain here at Booker T. Washington. In 1968, Booker T. Washington was closed and schools were integrated. The Eagles became Wildcats. Remember that. In fact, County Commissioner Snowden and I graduated from the same school district in 1965. I didn't know that. But I do know this, that the history of Elgin, Booker T. Washington had an indelible impact on its citizens and on this town. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, because though we were in the segregated school system, we got a great education and we were able to thrive and do very well and make great contributions to this society. We had many great teachers. And I'm reminded of teachers in terms of the Chinese proverb. It says that if you plan for a year, plant corn. If you're planning for a decade, plant trees. If you're planning for life, train and educate your people. And that's what we did. The teachers educated us for life. And so I'm just going to name a few of the teachers we had. In elementary, Mrs. Bright, Mrs. Taylor, Mrs. Block, Miss Bell, Miss Johnson, Miss Hayward, Miss Evans, Miss Westbrook. In junior high and high school, we had Miss Owens, Miss Davis, Miss Robertson, Miss Bryan, Mr. Price, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Franklin, Coach Spence, Coach Woods, Mr. Pope, Coach Murphy, Mr. Hart and Ms. Hart, and Principal is D.P. Johnson. And I want to take a point here that says one teacher that's here today. And that's Miss Blocker. Miss Blocker is here. She was our second grade teacher, Miss Blocker. Thank you. Thank you so very much. The old school building that we initially started at Booker T. Washington closed in 1960. And we started a new school right here. This was Booker T. Washington Elementary, junior high, and high school right here. And I remember this gym so very well. I won't go into that. My brother Milton's back there. He tells some stories. Let's talk a little bit about elementary school. Student discipline was good, and it was enforced. Safety was not a problem, though we had a few arguments, a few fist fights. There were no knives and guns back in those days. Parents spoke to the teachers. Parents and teachers had a good relationship because the teachers knew your parents. So if there was something going on, they would let your parents know. Now, I would also say that during this time, we did not have child protective services. You could not call 911 if you did not like what was going on with how you were being disciplined or treated. We didn't have that. The teacher, the principal, they delivered corporal punishment with the belt. And oftentimes, when you got home, the parents doubled down and gave you more belts. That's the way it was. But teaching and learning was most important to our children. All students were expected to learn and learn well. But we also had a lot of fun. We had recess, and during recess, I remember the boys played marbles, and we played for keeps. We gambled. We did that. And we played football. It was tackle. No flag football, it was tackle. It was a real deal. And the girls, my sister Gladys is here, and she told me that the girls played jacks, and they danced to Little Sally Walker and hopscotch. Now the communities, the Elgin School District made up of kids who lived in town, and then we had the rural kids, the kids that lived in Lydic. They lived in Kimbrough, the Youngs Ferry, Hogeye area, the Brickyard, MacDade, Copeland, Weberville along the Colorado River, and Wilbarger Creek. Now my father, Otha McShann, was the first black bus driver hired around 1950. But he started out with a station wagon. I remember that was a little boy. He had a station wagon. And shortly after that, my dad, of course, he drove the bus here for 32 years. Then my Uncle Shifton also, right after him, was a bus driver for many, many years, and Mr. Hatch. They drove the bus and brought the kids here. During school, students were required to, we said the Lord's Prayer at the beginning of the class. We did that. We practiced the Golden Rule. We also believe that we work together as one. I remember we used to say that together we stand, divided we fall. And we try to practice that. Let me take you to high school. Now, high school was a brand new world. We only had 3 sports: football, basketball, and track. And we also had the new Farmers of America, and we had the new Homemakers of America. The other school had the Future Farmers of America, Future Homemakers of America. That's the way that was. But we had a great leadership, you might say, in that area because we had teachers who really allowed us to reach our fullest potential, and we did very well. Another fun thing we had was in high school you had recognition programs for students who were the most studious, most likely to succeed, best all-around athlete, most beautiful, most handsome, boy and girl. Now we had winning football teams. We had great athletes back in the day. John Westbrook, my classmate, played at Baylor University in 1965, broke the color barrier in the Southwest Conference along with Jerry LeVice of Beaumont. That happened right here in Elgin. John Westbrook, the late John Westbrook, y'all probably might know that. And we had many outstanding athletes here, many of them. I think of J.D. Collins. I think of Raymond Vincent. Oh, I can think of many, many others, McNeil. And then There was Milton Night Train Robertson. I remember that guy. James Jabbo Houston. We had some bad boys. And then I must take the personal privilege to say there were the McShann brothers. Big brother Otis, myself, and Milton. We were pretty bad. Pretty bad boys. About 6, 7 years was McShann around. That's so true. The last Washington football team, I must say Milton's here, along with some of his teammates. They played in 1966 in the quarterfinal, right up in the state of Elgin. They played against one guy. It was Weir Little High School in East Texas. His name was, I think it was Ernie Holmes. Part of Pittsburgh Steelers, Steel Curtain, back there with Mean Joe Green. He was one of those 4. He played against you guys, and perhaps that's why you lost. Not sure. UIL competition was at Prairie View A&M University, not at UT Austin. Prairie View is where we went to compete, and we competed in track. And we had a state tennis champion by the name of Louise Thomas. Y'all probably know Louise Thomas. Many track champions like Lorenzo Fowler, McIntosh, McNeil, Wade, just to name a few. And we had great basketball players for the girls. It was Louise Thomas, Shirley Cathy. I think I saw something there, 1966 girls. Shirley was probably in there. Shirley Cathy, and there was Gene Collins as well. They were great basketball players. When I think about teachers that really inspired us, several come to mind. There was Miss Annie Lee Hayward. You all know Miss Hayward. She was a 4th grade teacher, but she was more than that. She did the one-act play. That's something she did on her own. She would do dance and entertainment and drama for kids. Such an inspiration. There was Mrs. Vivian Bryant, a home economics teacher, who led students in such a way they went to the highest point of leadership. My cousin Shirley Flowers was president of the New Homemakers of America. And my sister Gladys is here. She didn't want me to say this, but Gladys was the state secretary for the state of Texas for the New Homemakers of America. And then there was L.D. Price, not too long passed away, my ag teacher. I owe my inspirations too, because he was one who taught leadership. He taught you about Robert's Rules of Order and Parliamentary Procedure in a way that allowed you to conduct business in such a way that it allowed you to ascend to the highest level. I was state secretary of New Farmers of America for the state of Texas as well. And then, what about the cafeteria? There was Miss Allen, who was the manager, and a couple of ladies, that they prepared the food for the kids. It was good stuff back in the day, no doubt. And then the funny guy was Mr. T. Bryce. He was a custodian and the maintenance guy, and he always gave you a great laugh. And lastly, right here in this gymnasium, we had the junior-senior prom. I see some of my folks here. Some of y'all went to, remember that junior senior prom? That was the time you had a chance to do, you might say, take your date. And you come here and you dance to the music and had a really great time. Right here in this gym. I remember those days. Remember those days? Right here. We did this. Now let me finish my message. But talk a little bit about the proud clients of Booker T. Washington. I must say that the education gave us a foundation to be successful. Some today you talk about business entrepreneurs. I don't know if it's Dorothy McCarthy here. Dorothy, are you here? Yeah, Dorothy. Dorothy's been a businesswoman here forever and ever, Dorothy. Congratulations. My Uncle Shifton's been in that business since about 1965, the barbershop. Entrepreneurs, we can think of many, many others. My brother came back from California and got the farm and ranch going again. I just go down there to help. I'm not very much at, doing stuff. I like doing this kind of stuff. And we have many retired educators. And I want to say that we had a lot of firsts. A lot of firsts. Wendell Baker, Dr. Wendell Baker, veterinarian, graduated in 1963 and and practiced veterinary science outside of Prairie View, Waller area. And then there was someone by the name of Wright Collins. Went to school probably in the 50s, late 50s. Wright Collins was brilliant from Kimbrough, Lydic area. Went to University of Texas, Austin, which was unusual back in the 60s, and a pharmacist. And there were many, many others. I must think about my big brother Otis, who was in law enforcement, the first lieutenant in Travis County. And then my classmate Henry Hodge was the sheriff of Kendall County outside of San Antonio. And let me say this and finish it up. Every child deserves an equal life chance to reach their hopes and dreams in life. And I say at Booker T. Washington, they gave us a strong foundation to do that. Also, I would say they taught us that accountability, responsibility, integrity, and being honored, being an honored person, and honoring your conduct, that was very important. They would also say that you want to live your life as a torch burning bright, not as a candle dimly lit. Never lose your hopes and dreams, because if you lose your dreams, you become a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. So I say to all of you, we're proud. People here at Booker T. Washington, some of my classmates and those who went here, that we're well-grounded. Myself, well, a school board member for 30 years in Harlingen CISD in Harlingen, Texas. A first black president of the Texas Association of School Boards in 1998-99. 50 years after Brown versus Board of Education, I served as president of the National School Board Association for the United States of America. So Booker T. Washington did me very proud and very well. I thank all of you for giving this opportunity, and thank you very much.